कल होए, जग में वैरी कोई नहीं, जो मन शीतल होए। यह आपा तो डाल दे, दया करे सब कोई कबीरा, दया करे सब कोई। Hello. So this one is on fights and struggles. In life, we face many fights, we face a lot of struggle, and it is to such a great extent that we have considered the alternative meaning of life as a continuous battle where you face a sequence of fights and struggles. Why is this so synonymous with life? Why do we have to fight with our friends, our family, our brothers, our sisters? And why do we have to fight in the end our own selves? A very beautiful metaphor for life and a person going towards their individuality has been said in the form of you being a stone, a sculptor's stone, and then the sculptor, he through his chisel and hammer, through the friction of his sandpaper, he sculpts you into a beautiful idol of yourself, an idol which, through the violent actions, the threshing of his hammer upon you, his chiseling on you, is able to make you into something that is more refined, something that is more of you and less of the mass of the stone. You might become leaner, you might become less of your conditionings, many things that you have think that are right about you, because when you go into a fight, you never think that you are not wrong. You always think of yourself as correct. But then as you fight, the layers of the issue, they open onto you. You might think that your point of view, your lens is the one that is the correct one. But when you indulge into it, not just go into it like a blind folk, you go into it as someone who is conscious, who is aware, who is looking at what they are doing and what is happening through this process. You come out more refined, understanding of all the dimensions involved in that struggle. And you see that the other person is also not completely wrong in their struggles. They too are coming from somewhere from where they might have their own blind spots, just as you have your own. And that is the beauty of fight. That is the beauty of struggle. That when you are involved in it completely, you are able to see you as yourself, and the other person who is fighting you are not very different. You both come from a very hard set of beliefs and might be fighting for something which is very close to you. And in that understanding, you both become quite similar. And here we are not talking about a fight which is very superficial and is done to salvage one's ego, although every fight in a way is trying to salvage their ego. But it is talking about fights which are having a lot of meaning or purpose for the ones who are fighting it. Till now, we have talked about the wise, how they indulge in fight, how they understand out of it. And what is the resultant of this is that the wise, the people who go into it consciously, do not have to fight so many fights with the others. Rather, their fights become more with themselves then. They see, they question, they try to think and adapt as to why they are choosing certain viewpoints, as to why they are so strongly opinionated about certain causes. And that questioning makes them indulge in fights with their own selves. And this fight, it helps the society at large by generating beautiful viewpoints, great outlooks that go, and their expanse lasts for not themselves, but it goes to different generations. It does not just stay with you, it moves on to the next generation. They are the wisdom, they are the viewpoints, they are ideologies that transgress the bodily form of the person who holds them. Those are the beautiful fights. I am not talking about the small battles that you have in with your neighbor, the word spats, the name calling, all these are still very superficial level. I'm talking about things that legends are made of. That is what make legends. Have you fought yourself to that intensity that you have understood so many secrets, so many things that define us? You try doing that and you understand where many of the great thinkers come from and how they have dedicated their lives to something that is beyond themselves. We find people who are doing things like that or legends, in a way, we find them tough to understand. Leading a life without the things that we really value, how is someone able to lead their lives without them and they just have a set of principles? Not even a lot of worldly things that we value, maybe wealth, maybe relationships of a certain nature. We see people in the past who did not have a lot of them, and in a corner of our mind, we find them very funny. The rishis, the saints, maybe great philosophers, the name of whom we hear so frequently, or maybe some greatest inventors as well. When you look at their personal lives, they might be very unique or twisted in our limited thinking. The way we think, we might find them as twisted or very outlandish. But when you lead a life of struggle yourself, then you understand where they came from. It is not that usual lives that we lead, we do not struggle. Rather, we struggle all the more because we are, and our struggles are also very unnecessary. Why is that? Is because we are never really able to go beyond our usual struggles because we never look at it through a particular lens. We look at it very superficially and we have taken for granted that these struggles are to be fought. We have to fight our relatives, we have to fight our parents, and this is the general way of life. We have to fight our husband or wives, we have to fight our girlfriends or boyfriends because that's how you create things. And this fight, you keep dwelling in these fights, and you might get a gratification that okay, I told them this, I told them that, and it might give you some validation or some gratification. But if you limit yourself to that, you don't see deeply where you are giving your time, because in the end life is about time, right? You do not see where you are giving your time, what you got out of it from the entire fight. Did you really get a solution, or is it just a furtherance of your problem? You delayed it. Did you just delay your problems? or did you get a solution which is lasting? Saints even talk about this when they refer to things like samadhi, they refer to samadhan. The thing in both these words which is being referred to is, did you get a lasting solution, or have you just prolonged your problems by just for now giving a very gratifying response, or maybe just withholding the situation for now? That is what you have to question yourself. And the struggles that are really uplifting, the ones who empower you, are the ones who lead you to a samadhan, a lasting solution. There are fights of superficial nature, like ones of showing one's superiority in terms of wealth, in terms of intelligence, in terms of any other worldly thing. You might show your superiority onto others, you might project it. People might even get scared of your fighting attitude and they might lay low, they might just surrender to you. But out of this conquest, what did you really get? Alexander the Great, everyone might know about him. He fought so much, he conquered half the world, and yet, when he was about to die from a disease, he didn't even die out of fighting. He was about to die from a disease. What he desired the most was to get back to his home place. It is also said that when he was about, before embarking on his great journey towards the east of the world, he met Diogenes, and Diogenes, he cursed him. It is a very funny story about Diogenes. Diogenes, the Greek philosopher, he used to live in a wine jar by the riverbed. And once Alexander had visited him to ask Diogenes what he really wants from him. Being a king, he had the power to gift him anything that he wants. And being the great thinker that Diogenes is, what he asked from Alexander the Great was to move aside from, because he was hiding the sun from Diogenes, was not letting him sunbathe, and he told him to move aside. So that's all that Diogenes asked of him. So Alexander, he really started to question everything, and being in that mode, Diogenes, knowing the intention of Alexander's, that he wanted to travel around the world and conquer it, he told him that what will you achieve out of that? And he said that I'll be finally happy. Alexander said that I'll be finally happy when I conquer the world. Then he said that come here, just take the clay pot right beside, come and sit with me or lay down with me. I am perfectly happy over here. And this was a great revelation, although Alexander could not withstand with it. But it was a great revelation, and it went on to show that Diogenes is someone who has conquered himself through this fight and struggles which were more complex, which are more subtle than the conquest of Alexander. The conquests of Alexander, the fights that he fought, were more gross or stool in nature, whereas Diogenes the Great, he had really fought himself, he had done the inner battles, and that's how he had come to that realization by conquering himself. And the funny part is that Alexander the Great, when he went out to conquer the outer world, he could only conquer half the world, and yet he died unhappy. Whereas Diogenes was himself happily living without much of a materialistic, without much of the worldly possessions, in tune with himself and with his nature. This story, it really focuses and makes us understand or makes us question as to what are we really fighting for. It is not that you have to surrender all your fights. It is just that you have to try and understand the nature of the fights that you are trying to conquer. What are you trying to firstly fight for? And even if you win, what will you really get? Is it something which will give you everlasting peace? Is it something which will pull the curtains from your real nature? Is it something that is going to get you ingrained in cycles, and the cycles which are very grueling, which will keep you trapped? Or is it something which will really take you towards your own salvation and get to know yourself better?